So again, good morning all. Jusha, Tawasha, Sahopa. It is with great pleasure and honor to be with you all here today for our Four Winds Diversified Project webinar titled Understanding the U.S. General Service Administration Schedule and Contracting Programs. My name is Russell Pedro, currently the Senior Business and Certification Specialist for the Four Winds Diversified Project and CEO for Data Management of New Mexico. Before we start, I would like to acknowledge that we have over 35 participants here today representing 11 states to include New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, Texas, Alaska, South Carolina, Washington, D.C., Kentucky, Ohio, Pennsylvania, the Navajo Nation, and Puerto Rico. Welcome all. We hope you are healthy, well, and safe in your communities. The overall mission of all of our Four Winds Diversified Project webinars are to get you as the contractor ready and prepared to bid, market, and meet with federal procurement officers, as well as prepare you and your company for government contracting vehicles. Before we move forward, I do have a couple of housekeeping duties I would like to take care of. At the bottom of your Zoom webinar platform, you do have a Q&A dialog box. During the presentation, you may see and might want to ask questions, specific questions. So please use this Q&A dialog box to do so. And at the very end of our webinar presentation, we will read and answer each question presented to our panelists and team. Your feedback is very important to us, so please fill out the end of the webinar survey, which will be emailed to you after our event. And of course, please silence your phones, and thank you all for your participation. Today, our Four Winds Diversified Project team would like to welcome and thank in advance Mr. David Dehon, who is the Customer Service Director with the U.S. General Services Administration, for joining us here today and to share his in-depth knowledge and advice on the GSA schedule and contracting program. So Mr. Dehon, thank you. So who is the Four Winds Diversified Project? Since September of 2019, we've operated in the Southwest region and branded our center the Forward Project. This innovative project was conceptualized by Southwest Business Development Consultants and Data Management of New Mexico, and is currently funded by the MBDA U.S. Department of Commerce. We are currently in our second quarter of our third year and are located at the Indian Public Cultural Center in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We provide the following services and resources. We are here to provide federal contracting strategies, training, and coaching, assessments and certifications for federal set-aside programs such as the SBA's 8A, Hub Zone, Women-Owned, Service-Disabled-Owned certification programs. We are here to also provide quarterly business training, one-on-one meetings and consultant services, as well as provide access to opportunities, access to capital, and access to resources and referrals. And the beautiful thing about our core services is that there is no charge. The Minority Business Development Agency was established in 1969 and is the only federal agency solely dedicated to the growth and global competitiveness of minority and Native American owned small businesses. New Mexico was one of the first MBDA business centers to open its doors nearly 52 years ago, and today there are over 44 business and specialty centers throughout the nation, including Puerto Rico. Our Four Winds Diversified Project is honored to be part of 13 American Indian, Alaskan Native Hawaiian MBDA grantees, and as mentioned, part of a larger 44 nationwide MBDA business, specialty, and advanced manufacturing centers, who some of them are present here with us here today. So welcome, MBDA family. We currently serve over 160 clients, of which 80% are Native American owned and operated. Our clients range from construction to IT to marketing to media, consultants, real estate, renewable energy, hospitality, entertainment, insurance, engineers, architects, web developers, software developers, project management firms, and tribes. We have clients nationwide from Florida to Georgia to Oklahoma to Washington, D.C. Over the last 2 decades, our Four Winds Diversified Project team has built a powerful network of over 80 resource and strategic partners in New Mexico, the Southwest, and nation. We are currently working with our strategic partners to enhance our procurement capabilities to offer unlimited access to contract opportunities on the federal, state, local, and Buy Indian Act initiatives. As you know, for those who have joined us in the past, we have developed and presented many webinars over the past 2.5 years. We just finished our US SBA certification and contracting programs webinar this past January. And so definitely look out for future webinars. We will be hosting at least 2 minimum per quarter. So please look out for those webinars. Now for team introductions. First and foremost is Mr. Michael D. Peacock, CEO and President of Southwest Business Development Consultants. Good morning, Mike. The virtual floor is yours.
Good morning, Russell, and welcome to all participants tuned in today. And thank you to Mr. David Dehon of the GSA. As the centralized procurement arm for the federal government, my understanding is that GSA offers products, services, and facilities needed by federal agencies for serving the public. In turn, GSA offers businesses the opportunity to sell billions of dollars worth of products and services to those agencies. We are optimistic that our engaged Four Winds Diversified Project clients will benefit today from this informational webinar and become GSA contract holders in the future to supply products, services, and facilities to all federal agencies. Welcome, everybody, and thank you, Russell. And I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Peacock. Next, we have Ms. Darla Jones, who currently serves as our program manager for the Four Winds Diversified Project. Ms. Jones is currently out on travel, but we are very proud to announce that Ms. Jones is on her 2-year anniversary. As a matter of fact, today, February 24th. Darla has stepped up right to the plate and is doing an amazing job leading the organization, empowering as a team leader. She has a dynamic personality and is key to management's successful projects, growing businesses to scale. She has served as the project manager for the Four Winds Diversified Project for the past 2 years, and her primary roles are to provide project management, agency reporting, budgetary planning control, video production services, engagement of new clients, and of course, to provide the services we listed below. So congratulations, Ms. Jones, and happy 2-year anniversary. Next, we have myself, of course. As mentioned before, my name is Russell Pedro. I'm currently the Senior Business Certification and Training Specialist and CEO of Data Management of New Mexico. I've been very fortunate to work with Native and minority-owned small businesses, nonprofits, our Native youth, and tribal organizations over the last 17 years in New Mexico, the Southwest, and nation. Through past affiliations with the MBDA Business Center, American Indian Chamber of Commerce, and the American Indian Alaska Native Tourism Association. During that time, our team has had the honor to host over 10 minority and Native American economic summits, 5 meet and greets with the local national laboratories, 3 one-on-one buyer-seller procurement fairs, and 2 youth conferences, all focused on assisting our small business and tribal communities. As part of today's webinar, we will present strategies to consider before you begin the certification process or meeting with buyers, to include the following important updates. And as mentioned in our last webinar, this database is a critical tool used to determine Buy Indian Act set-asides, SBA 8A contracts, and I learned over the last week also to include GSA contracts. This database is also important to register in for SBA GSA certification programs. So please make sure that your registration status is active, that all of your core information, addresses, phone numbers, points of contacts are all updated, and that you have your SAM search authorization as a yes, so that buyers can find you. Another important database that you need to be aware of is the SBA ProNet profile. Again, make sure that your status is active, all your addresses, phone numbers, contact individuals and persons are updated, that you have a capabilities narrative, and your NAICS and keywords are also updated. Lastly, like a business plan, your statement of qualifications or qualification statement is a living, breathing document. Update your statement when you have completed a new project and or contract. You will have different statements for different buyers, contractors, and it'll also depend on the targeted agency, because each agency has its own mission and focus. So when you're doing your SOQ, do your due diligence and research, and make sure you keep this bad boy updated. Strategies. Are you ready for certifications? Does the business and management have the capacity? Does your team have the management and technical experience, the proper business license, specialty training? Does the business have potential for success? Do you have at least 3 years of tax returns, both personal and business? Do you have strong financial statements? Do you have loan documentation? Do you have bonding capacity? Does the management have character? Have you not been delinquent on any business and personal taxes? No lawsuits, claims, or civil complaints? No bankruptcies? And lastly, do you have the time and patience? I found out while working with Mr. Dehon that it could take up to a year to get on the GSA schedule. So time and patience. So think about these things, as you're getting ready for certifications. Contracting resources. Small businesses interested in pursuing federal contracts have many options available to represent their company to potential buyers, to research the federal marketplace for available opportunities, and to understand its competition. To better prepare a business for federal contracting opportunities, it is important to understand these resources. So again, there's SAM, System for Awards Management, Dynamic Small Business Search, Federal Biz Ops. We have, of course, GSA.gov, which Mr. Dehon will cover in detail, as well as the Federal Procurement Data System, USAspending.gov. And as you can see, there are many pro tips for which you can use. Without further ado, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce Mr. David Dehon, who is the Customer Service Director for the U.S. General Services Administration, New Mexico District Office. Dave represents GSA entire suite of acquisition solutions to its customer in New Mexico and the Texas Panhandle. He engages with federal agency and military personnel at all management levels to discuss existing acquisition programs. He provides market research, training, and customer service. Prior to his current GSA assignment, Dave worked in the Office of Professional Services and Human Capital categories for the Air Force and NASA. In 2014, he completed a 7-month temporary duty assignment at Kandahar Air Base, Afghanistan, where he was embedded with the U.S. and military forces as a GSA Global Supply Liaison Officer. He and his wife Shirley maintain their family home in Tejedas, New Mexico. It is with great honor and pleasure to be working with you, Mr. Dehon. The virtual floor is yours.
Wow, that's a great introduction, and thank you very much, Russell, as well as Michael, for the opportunity to join you all here today, along with the attendees that are here. It's my distinct honor and privilege as a GSA employee to come out and further our efforts to connect with you and your colleagues here today. Um, it's unique. This is a unique opportunity for me, and one that I think is well aligned with some of the other duties that I've been performing in the background. GSA is very keenly aware and interested in supporting not only our native nations. But also in promoting small businesses that have uh, native ties, both here in New Mexico and across the country. So uh, much of the work that we're doing is in fact furthering the efforts to improve visibility, improve the number of contractors that are available to our government customers. And I'm simply one guy here in New Mexico ready to serve you in any way I can. So we'll go ahead and move into my presentation today. The Federal Acquisition Service, I'm going to give you a very top level overview. This presentation is not designed to answer the question, are you ready to contract with GSA? Rather to make you aware of the various contract types that we offer to federal government, state and local, as well as tribal nations. Many of our contracts have uh, the ability to be accessed by state and local governments as well as tribal nations. Next slide. So, we're going to talk a little bit about our mission, the GSA schedule contracts, the other multiple award contracts, government-wide acquisition contracts. We're going to shift gears and talk a little bit about the professional contracting capability that GSA offers to other federal agencies on a fee basis. We're going to talk a little bit about our supply chain organization called GSA Global Supply. Touch on personal property management, so that will involve kind of a top level view of maintaining government property and making it available for use by other agencies, and then ultimately finishing up with a quick overview of a couple of the e-tools that GSA manages for our government customers. Next slide. So GSA's mission, in a nutshell, is to be the centralized federal procurement and property management agency designed to help federal agencies serve the public. GSA continuously seeks new services and supplies, designs innovative systems, introduces procurement models, addresses customer needs and expectations, and strives to create best value solutions for our customers. Our authority is placed in the Federal Property and Administrative Services Act of 1949. We've been around since actually 1947 when President Truman decided that we really needed an agency that was solely focused on providing streamlined acquisition products as well as maintaining federal real estate for other federal agencies to use. So GSA in a nutshell is broken up into several services. The two distinct services, my service, the Federal Acquisition Service, and then the other half of GSA is the Public Building Service. And unfortunately, I won't have time to talk about the public building service very much, other than to say that they maintain about 300 million square feet of usable office space across the United States and in foreign countries, and make that space then available to other federal agencies to meet their mission needs. And we do that typically on a reimbursable fee basis. commonly referred to as leasing. So we either own or lease properties across the United States, and then we lease those back to the agencies that need them. Next slide. We're going to begin with a quick overview of the GSA Schedules program. I would like to kind of highlight a couple of prevailing themes in all of the all of the contract types that I'm going to discuss, including schedules, but that is streamlined ordering, cost savings through the power of government purchasing at the government-wide level. Our job is obviously to reduce the costs and improve the overall functions of the federal government through the contracts that we offer. And so that prevailing theme of streamlined ordering, you'll sense that throughout my presentation this morning, and I'll probably kind of breeze through these slides with an effort to really get to the heart of answering any questions that you might have at the end of today's presentation. Next slide. Through the multiple award schedule program, GSA contracts with thousands of commercial businesses which provide access to a vast array of professional services such as management, financial, engineering, environmental, and the list goes on and on. They're all commercial in nature. Everything that is offered through the schedules program will be commercial. We don't do any non-commercial type of activity on the schedule program. And it also offers commercial supplies ranging from computer hardware to office supplies. The schedule solicitation, this is a little different than some of the other contracts that I'll discuss. Our solicitation for the schedule is continuously open. You can find it on on SAM.gov just by simply typing in the GSA multiple award schedule. Anytime that you want to view that solicitation, you'll note once you visit that website that our solicitation is rather lengthy in terms of several volumes. I highly encourage you that if you are in fact interested in pursuing a GSA schedule, that you in fact spend the time to review the entire solicitation. It's important that you do, because many of the things that we're going to ask you for, we kind of explain either through the solicitation itself or through other resources that we make available. So I highly encourage you to take the time to review that solicitation. It's really important. And all those preparatory actions that Russell was mentioning at the very beginning, those contribute directly into the effort that it's going to take for you to pursue a schedule contract with GSA. Offers may be submitted at any time to become a scheduled contractor, and once we receive an offer, we will review it and negotiate with you. If we have any questions, we'll expect that you're able to be available to answer. Our scheduled contracting officers make a note to self, make somebody available, because it's going to take a little while. As Russell mentioned, it takes about a year in the queue for us to be able to review your offer, and so you certainly want to be prepared once our contracting officer pulls your offer into their desk, that you are ready and capable of answering any questions that we may have. A couple of little tidbits of information that I think are very important. This is probably going to be one of the most difficult endeavors that you undertake, and one that you should really have well based within your business plan, that of pursuing a scheduled contract, because we're going to ask you for a lot of information to accompany your offer, and we may have questions, and we would certainly reach out to clarify any parts of your submission. If we can't get a hold of somebody, unfortunately, we're going to move to the next offer. That's kind of the way it works, and so we want you to really be prepared and ready the minute that that offer begins to be reviewed. Next, next slide. Okay, so a couple of facts about the schedule. Over 25 million commercial supplies and services available at volume discount pricing. The GSA schedule is also a great tool to help agencies meet their small business goals, as roughly 80% of all schedule holders are in fact small businesses, and small business set-asides are allowable at the order level. It wasn't always like that, and we're very proud that we've been able to promote small businesses by integrating a set-aside capability within the schedules program. GSA schedules are awarded on an indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity, or IDIQ basis. The total quantity of services or supplies that will be acquired under a scheduled contract and the specific time for delivery of those items are not set at the contract level. Rather, they are set at the time an order is established. Scheduled solicitations include only estimated total sales for each special item number or subcategory, as they're commonly referred to. GSA e-library, an e-tool that I'll talk a little bit about, an online website, is available to review the current listing of scheduled contracts, as well as view links that take you to additional information about each schedule that's maintained by GSA. Next slide. So, realizing cost savings right up front, GSA contracting officers negotiate fair and reasonable prices for order quantities less than or equal to the simplified acquisition threshold. I believe that's set at $250,000 right now. When the value of an order exceeds that threshold, ordering activities are expected to seek further price reductions. I'll just talk a little bit about price from the perspective of when we are negotiating, our contracting officers are negotiating price with you, we expect to receive most favored customer pricing at the very onset of those negotiations. And then from there, obviously, we certainly encourage you to offer volume discounts based on whatever quantity the agency is ordering at the time. Excuse me, my dogs are here. I am teleworking today, and I apologize. They alert anytime we have the doorbell ring or somebody come to the house, and I apologize for that. The schedule program provides ordering activities with competitively awarded contracts to increase the productivity and capacity of scarce acquisition resources. In addition, the program offers quick and easy access to the right industry partners, allowing customers to make the most of their valuable time. We really like to think of the scheduled programs as being one of the most flexible available to our federal customers. And so we certainly encourage those customers to adopt a best value kind of evaluation philosophy, where price is only one factor in overall evaluation of a quote they are receiving. And so there may be other factors that weigh heavier. I'll give you an example. So we have two contractors who offer the same exact item. One is offering a better price, but longer delivery lead time. Well, the best value evaluation technique allows for maybe the customer to pay a little more to receive that item faster. And so that's where best value really resides, and that resides wholly within the GSA Schedule program. Another key benefit of using the schedule program is the ability for schedule contractors to team to offer a total solution where all of the team members actually have or hold GSA schedule contracts, not for the whole piece of the project, but individual pieces. And by allowing a scheduled team contractor teaming arrangements, we get to those total solutions. BPAs, blanket purchase agreements, are also allowed under the schedules program, and something that we encourage our customers when they may have they know some of the requirements, but they don't know the entire level of effort to accomplish. They can establish a blanket purchase agreement not only for a 1 year period, but they can also add up to four 1 year options. I'd also like to note, because I don't think it's within this presentation, that schedule contracts, the why does GSA take so much time to evaluate your offer? You have the potential of winning a contract with GSA, a schedule contract that has the potential for a 5 year base plus three 5 year options for a total of 20 years of contract coverage. That's a long period of time. So GSA kind of does our due diligence in making sure that we're issuing these contracts to the right contractors and that it's a good fit not only for you but for us as well. Next slide. So these are a list of some of the services that are available. Obviously the list is not all encompassing, but I would like to again reiterate that the services that are available on schedule must be commercial in nature. We do not do any weapons type related work that would be either covered by the Defense Logistics Agency or one of the military services. That's all set for those entities to accomplish, and we don't do any construction. Now I'll give you a caveat to that. We do offer prefabricated and pre-manufactured buildings. We just don't do traditional design bid build type projects under the schedules program. Nor do we offer A&E services. That is because of the limitations set forth in the Davis-Bacon Act. Again, this list is not comprehensive. For an entire list of services that are in fact available, I encourage you to visit GSA eLibrary. Next slide. This is, again, not a comprehensive list, rather than just a general list of the products that are available. Again, commercial in nature. The FAR defines commercial items as including both supplies and services, and is extremely broad on purpose. That's by design. For mass user purposes, recognize that if it is found on a schedule, it has been deemed commercial in nature in accordance with the FAR definition. Next slide. We're going to kind of shift gears away from the schedule contracts and kind of give you a broad overview of our multiple award contracts. Next slide. What is a MAC? A multi-agency contract is a task order or delivery order contract established by one agency for use by other government agencies to obtain both supplies and services. MAC contracts include contracts both for information technology as well as professional services. The benefits, again, streamlined ordering and awarding. We have developed some really good processes to not only award our multi-agency contracts and our government-wide contracts, but also the ordering processes are significantly different than ordering in the open market. The ordering in fact, is defined in the Federal Acquisition Regulation, subpart 16.505. So these contracts again ensure fast delivery of required supplies or quicker performance of required services, allowing the government to leverage its buying power to get best value, to receive high quality supplies and services, and to take advantage of the latest technological changes that are occurring in the marketplace. I would also like to note that for all of the contracts moving now and forward, uh, there is something to be said about the protests or the ability to be kind of protest proof up to thresholds that are defined within the FAR. And for a multi-agency contract or a government-wide acquisition contract, the threshold for typical threshold for protests exceed $10 million, or for DoD contracts, anything above 25 million. So if you're below those thresholds, unless we're talking about a protest that involves, scope, period of performance, or maximum value, then protests are not allowed under those thresholds. Next slide. So we're going to talk. I Early on during my introduction, I came out of the Office of Professional Services and Human Capital categories. I am very proud to talk about OASIS, or One Acquisition Solution for Integrated Services. That's one of my favorite contracts. Here you go. Next slide. OASIS is not a scheduled contract. It is not a GWAC either. We'll talk about GWACs here in just a few moments, but it is a multi-agency contract offering professional services, and really offering a contract solution that hasn't previously been available within the federal government at the government-wide level. So it's a very flexible contract solution, one that we're very proud of. We'll talk about what's offered under the OASIS group of contracts, but again, ordering procedures are prescribed in FAR 16505 rather than under FAR 8.4, which is where the schedule ordering procedures are found. OASIS is a little bit different, so whereas the schedules are available for use by any eligible activity. In order to use OASIS, a warranted contracting officer must have requested and received a delegation of procurement authority that typically involves them attending a 2-hour training course, and you know then submitting a copy of their warrant and a request to receive a delegation of procurement authority. Basically, GSA is delegating our authority to that contracting officer. Next slide. Oasis and Oasis Small Business are multiple award IDIQ contracts that provide flexible and innovative solutions for complex professional services. Uh, some of the details, they can span multiple areas of expertise and mission space. Uh, Multiple professional service disciplines allow for flexibility, whereas the schedules are limited to either firm fixed price, time and material, labor hour type of task orders, the flexibility to include hybrids as well as cost reimbursement type of contracts are certainly the niche area that Oasis is trying to get to. And many, once you kind of get familiar with most of the research and development, as well as answering questions about how to accomplish something. Those professional services, uh, those agencies typically want to do cost reimbursement type contracting to lower some of the risk that is involved. The core disciplines within Oasis are program management, management consulting, logistics, engineering, scientific, and financial services. Ordering activities may add terms and conditions that don't conflict with the terms and conditions that were integrated at the contract level. And again, they may add supplemental clauses such as DFAR clauses. That's across all of our contract types, whether we're talking a multi-agency type contract like Oasis, or we're talking about a GWAC, or we're talking about the schedules. Agencies are always allowed to add additional terms and conditions, but they can never kind of undermine the existing contract terms that were agreed to during award of the contract. Next slide. Okay, as I mentioned earlier, engineering management, program management, financial management, all of that is available under Oasis. Typically, the NAICS Series 541 is where those services kind of fit within the NAICS system. Task orders may be issued up to 5 years, all the way up until the last day of performance, and those task orders can last up to 5 years beyond the end of the contract date. So that's great contract coverage. Many times an agency needs a longer period of performance to accomplish its goals or its mission, and these contracts offer that flexibility to meet it. Again, the agency themselves, when they use a small business or they're using an other than small, but there's a small business plan within the task order, the agency that's doing the ordering is also receiving the small business credit that goes along with that. Next slide. We're going to shift over to human capital and training solutions. Next slide. These contracts are a result of partnership between the U.S. Office of Personnel Management, or OPM, and GSA. The partnership manages a new strategically sourced IDIQ government-wide contract that provides complex, customized human capital and training services to all federal agencies. The HCAT's contracts provide federal agencies with a reliable, flexible, fast, and efficient way to obtain the solutions that they need in order to keep pace in the ever-changing area of human capital and training. So again, each of our contract types, usually when we're talking either HCATs or OASIS, not only do we have an unrestricted or a open pool. We also have set-asides at the contract level for small businesses. And again, if an agency chooses to use the small business pool, they're going to receive credit that's associated with that. Next slide. The contract ordering periods, again, 10.5 years with HCATs, so it's a contract base period of 5 years, lasting until 2021. We exercised the 5 year option that lasts until 2026. There's also a 6 month extension carrying it out to March of 2027. And again, orders can be placed up until the last day and have an additional 5 year period of performance. Next slide. Again, shifting gears over to building maintenance and operations, or BMO. Next slide. Okay. Building maintenance and operations is a strategic sourcing solution that provides comprehensive and flexible solutions covering all high demand BMO services. It's a multiple award IDIQ government-wide contract vehicle supporting the strategic sourcing initiative. Strategic sourcing initiative, in a nutshell, is a way of taking a market basket strategy. In other words, the services commonly utilized and ordered by the federal government, placing them in a market basket, and then creating a contract that drives more efficiency, more cost savings, and better management of those task and delivery orders using a strategic sourcing type of contract. The BMO contract is a 10-year contract with one 5 year base and one 5 year option. Next slide. This is the scope of the services that are available under BMO. As you can see, O&M, all of those services that are traditionally involved in building maintenance and operations. And then over on the right side, facility support services include the traditional janitorial, waste management, and landscaping type services. Next slide. We undertook a zonal approach, and one thing I didn't talk a little about at the onset is that GSA operates, the Federal Acquisition Service specifically, operates a little differently. We don't receive any congressional funding for our operations in the acquisition service. All of our funding is derived through the fees that we receive from contractors when they are reporting their orders, or the professional contracting services that we offer to our customers. So we're not in the business of making money, but we are in the business of covering our costs. So we are very business-like in our decision making when it comes to adopting a new contract type, as well as how we roll those contracts out and make them available to our customers. In this particular case, BMO took a zonal approach. As you can see, the areas that are colored in either blue or green currently have BMO contracts in place for other federal agencies to use. The areas in gray do not, which includes New Mexico. Darned it, I'd love to have BMO in place because I think it's a great strategic solution that could address a lot of our customers' needs, but unfortunately it hasn't been rolled out here yet. The other one thing that I would like to mention, at the earlier on I mentioned that the schedules are available to our not only to our federal customers, they're also available to state and local as well as tribal entities. These GWACs and these multi-agency contracts, this area of my briefing, unfortunately, these contracts are not available to our customers, and so I just kind of wanted to caveat that and clearly distinguish which contracts are available and which are not. Another key thing to note about these GWACs and these multi-agency contracts is that we undertake an open on-ramp and off-ramp period. So we're not always inviting new offers under these contracts, unlike the schedule where we're always looking to receive new offers. These contracts have very definitive or definite periods when we're inviting contractors to make an offer and potentially receive an award of one of these contracts. So if you happen to be interested in one of these contracts, I certainly recommend that you pay attention to the news, the tea leaves. Our tea leaves, we don't act without giving you advanced warning of a new contract that's coming out. You can pay attention to the news or visit interact.gsa.gov, interact.gsa.gov. That's where we do a lot of blogging and kind of lay out the tea leaves, if you will, of what we're going to be doing over the next several years. So just a few additional comments. Next slide. The GWACs, so the Federal Acquisition Service has not been around the entire way. We are actually a culmination or a merged organization from two distinct earlier services, one called the Federal Supply Service and one called the Federal Technology Service. And so those names should kind of give you a sense of where is our corporate knowledge really based. So we have very deep roots in the supply programs, and we have very deep roots in the technology programs. And so we offer government-wide acquisition contracts. They're all technology based. We call them GWACs for short. So let's talk a little bit more about them. Next slide. What is a GWAC? Again, it's a task or delivery order awarded on an indefinite delivery, indefinite basis, offering information technology established by an agency for government-wide use that is operated by an executive agent. In this case, GSA is the executive agent for the contracts that I'm going to be talking. GWACs are established pursuant to the Clinger-Cohen Act and are not subject to the Economy Act. OMB, in its memo on June 6, 2008, emphasized the numerous benefits interagency acquisitions have, including economies of scale, contract efficiencies, and leveraging resources. Small business GWACs are in concert with OMB's stated policy on interagency contracting. Ordering under an OMB approved GWAC is presumed to be in the government's best interests. So we'll talk a little bit more about the contract types that we offer. Next slide. GWACs do in fact provide best-in-class solutions designed to help agencies streamline their IT service procurement needs. Now, I just use best-in-class, and I would like you to kind of keep that resident in your mind. Best-in-class is a commonly referred to term here in the federal government relating to an initiative to move our spend into a category management way of thinking. And so we have developed goals that the agencies themselves, and now when I say we, I mean the federal government. GSA didn't do this. This was actually undertaken by the Office of Management and Budget, or OMB, through a variety of memos and kind of policies that they undertook. And the whole idea is that we need to, as a government, become more efficient and put our efforts into managing the very best of the best contract types, and kind of not awarding agencies who kind of want to do it their own way, if you will. So there is incentive. There's a report card that each agency reports throughout the government, and so the more spend that they put under these best-in-class contract types, the more credit that they receive as a result. And it's all meant really to be a method of streamlining, of doing better management of these contracts at the government-wide level. Next slide. So we're going to talk a little bit about Alliant 2. This is, again, a best-in-class GWAC that offers things like artificial intelligence or distributed ledger technology, or even robotic process automation and other types of emerging technologies. GSA Alliant 2 is a GWAC. It's a multiple award IDIQ that offers very flexible IT solutions to meet our customers' needs. Contractor engagement metrics, this best-in-class thing that I'm referring to, we're doing a better job of managing the orders, not only from the sense of collecting information about each of those orders, but also engaging those contractors who hold one of these contracts to ensure that they're operating at peak efficiencies as well. I would like to also note that we encourage the Defense Department by including their clauses at the master contract level. So a lot of times you will in fact see not only civilian agencies but also defense agencies because of the efforts that we've undertaken at the contract level. Next slide. Again, Alliant 2, and this is going to be a prevailing theme from here on when we're talking about these contracts. FAR 16501, excuse me, streamlined ordering procedures, shorter lead times, more flexibility at the contract level, including cost reimbursement, as well as ancillary services that are allowed for an IT solution. Next slide. $50 billion program ceiling, 10-year period of performance, very comprehensive and flexible in order to meet the needs of our federal partners, and allows for total solutions to be accomplished at the order level. Next slide. 8A Stars 3 is one of our newest GWACs. Again, you probably heard of 8A Stars in the past. Next slide. This is a set aside for SBA designated 8A firms. It allows agencies to meet their socioeconomic goals while working with experienced IT services firms. Excuse me. This particular GWAC allows for sole source orders up to the competitive 8A threshold, and then also the ability to accomplish the SBA offer and acceptance for required sole source orders. So it's a very important program, one that many of our customers, I can tell you the Forest Service has a major acquisition center for IT here in the Albuquerque area, and they use 8A stars a lot to meet their needs. So it's a really great contract vehicle. If you had been paying attention to the news last year, we hit the 8A Stars 2 ceiling three different times in a period of about 12 months. Instead of continually raising the ceiling, lifting the ceiling, we went ahead and decided to roll out 8A Stars 3 a little early. And it's just, again, it's just taking off right where the earlier iterations were kind of left at. Next slide. Again, this is kind of a self-explanatory slide where we again have orders that extend no more than 5 years beyond the expiration of the base contract. We'll keep on moving. Next slide. Vets 2, again, set aside for service disabled veteran owned small businesses offering IT services. Again, multiple award IDIQ. The program ceiling this time is a little lower at $5 billion, but again, the ability to allow agencies to promote and set aside exclusively for SDVOSB is really an important contract and one that is a fan favorite for many of our agency customers. Next slide. Again, 10-year base period of 5-year base, 1 5-year option. Again, the same flexibilities as the previous slides. Next slide. So, we talked a lot about contracts that GSA offers. We'll touch briefly on some other assisted services that we offer, beginning with the assisted acquisition services. Next slide. It's a professional contracting organization that GSA has within our organization. It is a fee-for-service type of organization. In other words, an agency that doesn't have the capacity within their own contracting to accomplish a contract can reach out to GSA in an interagency agreement basis, ask GSA to accomplish that contract on their behalf. We provide highly experienced contracting staff as well as project management staff and financial staff, all in an effort to help agencies really accomplish their missions. And as you'll see that we, in fact, our AAS organization is growing continually right now, due to the amount of spend that is being accomplished by all the agencies in the federal government. And when they aren't able to, that's where we can step in and help them. Next slide. We can do any type of contracting. We're not limited to our own contract vehicles, as you might think. We can do open market, we can do other agency contracts, because we're not the only agency that offers government contracts. You've probably heard of NASA SOUP or the Interior business solution that's available, and so we're able to leverage those contracts as well when it makes sense, when it's in the customer's best interest. Next slide. We do offer pre-award services, so all of the items that are listed fall within those pre-award services. Not only can we assist with developing requirements, but we can also do the associated market research and other pre-award activities all the way through conducting and making the final award. Next slide. Post-award services, again, we have the ability to appoint our staff members to be contracting officer representatives. We can manage all the program milestones all the way through and to contract closeout. Next slide. GSA Global Supply, next slide, is our supply chain organization. Again, probably one of our oldest parts of the Federal Acquisition Service. Dates all the way back to the early 1970s when DLA, or then the Defense Supply Agency, and GSA put our heads together and said that GSA would manage commonly used items of a commercial nature that weren't predominantly military in nature. Those were left to the Defense Logistics Agency, and so we assumed responsibility for managing general supplies and some services that we offer to all federal agencies, dating all the way back to the early 70s. That relationship that we have with DLA didn't end in that agreement. It actually we grew closer because we in fact serve military customers and other U.S. Federal customers around the world. We leverage the Defense Logistics Agency's transportation network quite heavily to get supplies to those customers who need it, wherever they happen to be on the face of the planet. Next slide. A little bit different about global supply is that this is a government-to-government wholesale supply system. In other words, when an agency contacts GSA Global Supply and places an order, that's actually considered to be a wholesale requisition. So quite different, where GSA had pre-purchased items or pre-negotiated contracts for items to be on our vendors' shelves. When we receive an order from an agency on a reimbursable basis, they don't have to do any competitive action. They simply locate the item on GSA Global Supply's inventory and submit an order. We bear the responsibility for doing all the competition and all the same FAR type of activities that the agencies themselves then don't have to do. So it's meant to be a way of, again, saving time by having GSA undertake those efforts. Next slide. More than 400,000 office supplies, tools, and hardware that are available that has been expanded with the advent of a part number system. So an agency can either submit their requisition with a national stock number, which is a 13-digit number. It's an older program that has been kind of updated to add more than 900,000 part numbered items to the available list that's available to our customers to use. couple of unique programs that are available. The special order program, again, if it's not available through GSA Global Supply, an agency can submit a special order where we do all the acquisition, administration, and logistics, all the way from the beginning of receiving that requirement through delivery to the customer wherever they happen to be. We're also very proud to support the Ability One program. So we have roughly 3,000 Ability One items that are available all the time through GSA Global Supply. Next slide. So, in a nutshell, yes, it was developed to support the warfighter, but I would argue, and I do argue quite frequently with our customers in some of the more remote locations. I remember my time when I was in Alaska, having to get supplies out to Nome from Anchorage was a real challenge. That's where GSA Global Supply can step in and really help meet their need, despite them not being a DoD customer, rather a local customer who needs our help to get what they need to live in Nome. So it's a great program, and I'm proud that we still have that available. Next slide. Personal property management, again, is a life cycle management organization. So the government buys a lot of stuff, right? We offer a way to manage the life cycle of that property once it's reached its kind of end of life, so to speak, with the agency that originally purchased it. We can advertise it as long as it's still serviceable to other federal agencies for transfer to them. This is embodied deeply in all of the programs that GSA offers, but it is one that we certainly encourage not only our federal agencies to use, but then if the property is not of, you know, accounted for by another federal agency, then we make it available to state and local governments as well. And again, the only thing that they're paying for is the transportation. They assume responsibility and then pay the transportation costs that are associated with movement of that property to their control. It's a great program and one that I highly tout as being kind of that sustainable attribute, kind of bringing more sustainability to the federal government. Next slide. GSA Fleet, and one of the last programs that I'll talk about, is GSA has been managing a fleet of over 220,000 vehicles on behalf of 75 federal agencies, as well as tribal entities who are eligible to be fleet partners, fleet customers as well. And we do that on a leasing basis. So not only do we buy the vehicles and lease them, but we also have and offer a program where customers can leverage our fleet contracts to purchase vehicles themselves using their own funds, regardless whether we manage the maintenance and the life cycle of the vehicle, or the customer decides that they want to do that on their own. We offer the solution that is being used across the federal government. Next slide. So not only does Fleet provide that leasing capability, we provide the acquisition and disposal of those vehicles, all full maintenance control and accident management is maintained within GSA. We also offer a fleet fuel card with every leased vehicle, as well as a loss prevention capability anytime that fleet card gets used. And if it's being abused, it triggers a review by GSA to ensure that those transactions are valid. So it's a great system, one that has been around for a number of years, taken a variety of looks and feels. But at the end of the day, I'll tell you this about GSA Fleet. There have been 16 uh, audits done by other federal agencies to determine if, in fact, GSA Fleet is the best value. And to date, every one of those audits has we prevailed in every one of those audits. We're very proud of the work that GSA Fleet does. They do it very economically and in the best interest of not only our customers but the government as well as our taxpayers. Next slide. Next slide. We're going to shift and talk just briefly about a couple of the e-tools that are available. Next slide. GSA Advantage is our online shopping portal that's available to all those customers that I talked about earlier. The GSA Schedules program feeds catalog information into an online shopping portal similar to what you might see on an Amazon or one of the other commercial shopping platforms. This is one of our most important avenues for our customers to purchase what they need. So if you get the chance, go out and visit GSA Advantage. I think you'll be impressed with the tool that we make available to government buyers across not only all the entire spectrum of buyer classes. Next slide. GSA Library. This is the official online source for where all of our contracts are maintained and viewable by in the open public. So anytime anybody has any questions about who's on GSA contract, they can not only list the or view the schedules themselves, what's offered, but also the clauses that are associated with those scheduled contracts and details about the contractors themselves, how to get a hold of the contractor, as well as EPLS status. So, we certainly promote our partnership with our contractors, and this is how you can view who our partners are. Next slide. GSA eBuy, again, that's an online solicitation platform. So we offer an exclusive solicitation platform to our customers. When they choose to use our contracts, then we certainly encourage them to use the solicitation platform that is streamlined and very easy to use, and something meant to kind of help them get to the contractors that they're targeting, regardless of the contract type. So, next slide. This is my contact information. Again, I'm Dave Dehon. I'm your customer service director located in Albuquerque, New Mexico. There are about 100 of me scattered across the United States and overseas. It's been a true, distinct honor to spend some time talking with you today. I encourage you, anytime you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or one of my colleagues. We'll certainly do our best to answer your questions and connect you to the resources that we have available. Russell, I'll turn the virtual platform back over to you. Thank you for the opportunity to spend some time here today with you.
Excellent. Again, Mr. Dehon, we appreciate you for joining us and presenting all this great information. I would like to now open it up to questions. So we will have a question time right now. And as mentioned, for those who attended as webinar attendees, we will have all of our contact information provided to you at the end of this presentation, but as well, you will also be receiving an email with Mr. Dehan, Mr. Peacock, Ms. Jones, and myself's information. So definitely reach out to us if you have any additional questions. I do have it's a question from Mr. Adolfo Vasquez. He did mention it was a very great presentation, but he had to leave for another training. But he had mentioned what would be the criteria, or what would the criteria be for GSA to establish a BMO in New Mexico? Is
Uh,
it business size or type driven?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the last part of that?
Yeah, so what would the criteria be for a GSA to establish a BMO in New Mexico? And is it business size or type driven?
So we do, uh, we are fully prepared to roll BMO out, but it is being phased across the United States based on business decisions. Uh, you know, we take a look at the marketplace. We see where the most spend is occurring, and we typically, uh, and in this particular case with the BMO solution, have undertaken a phased approach based on where the spend is occurring. And so, to say in a nutshell, it is going to be rolled out. I don't have an estimate of when it will be phased in here in New Mexico, but we definitely want to see that solution across the United States. So it's more a business decision related to an analysis of spend. Where is the spend occurring? Who's interested in using our contract type, and then obviously rolling it out in a phased approach.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mr. Vihan. We have another question. If a small business is not ready to enter into a GSA contract, can a small business market themselves to MAS, MAC, GSA contract holders for subcontracting opportunities? And if so, how would they go about that?
Yes, absolutely. There's subcontracting opportunities occurring all the time across the order sphere, if you will. I certainly encourage organizations who may not be prepared quite yet to undertake their own schedule contract or their own GSA multiple award contract. But you know, it gets a little more difficult in terms of how do you go about targeting those opportunities. And I would simply say that there is a scheduled sales query available in the public. Let me rephrase it. Schedule sales query is publicly available at a website. The uh, website is ssq.gsa.gov. So you type that in your web browser, and that'll take you to a location where you can do a query to see which schedule contractors are actively receiving orders, and then target those particular contractors for small business or subcontracting opportunities.
Beautiful, beautiful. We do have another question. Will the slides be provided to the attendees? Yes, we will have the slides both available in PDF format, Adobe Acrobat format, as well as video. We will be taking the time today to get the video uploaded to our YouTube page. But for those who would like the slides and or video, please reach out to either myself, Russell, Mike, or Darla, and we'll be happy to email those once available. Another question or comment is best in class really mean preferred vendor?
Uh, that's an interesting question. I would not categorize it necessarily as preferred vendor. What I would say though is that uh, we are interested in doing business with the best of the best. Okay, and um, when we are establishing these best-in-class contract vehicles, we're using evaluation techniques that rely on vendors to kind of self-score themselves in many cases as how well they stack up against their competition in the commercial marketplace. And we review those scores very carefully. That's not the only technique that is used, but um, we are in the business of uh, achieving greater value for our customer agencies. And in doing so, we certainly want the very best of the best in some of those contract types. It's interesting. I sit with federal agencies all the time, and early on the OASIS program, I was sitting with some nuclear agencies who, they have their little niche nuclear area of expertise, and who had a very small group of contractors that they had experience and did business with, and I pitched Oasis to them, and they took the risk and used Oasis in one of their requirements, and they loved it. They loved the flexibility that was associated with it. So, um, preferred vendor, I wouldn't categorize it that way. I would say we are trying to promote the best of the best.
Excellent, excellent. I do have just two more questions. Um, I am an economically disadvantaged woman owned advertising agency and marketing consultant firm. What contract area is the best target for my professional service, or do I come in as a sub?
I think you can, uh, under the current scheme, certainly locate subcontracting opportunities that are available now. So I would be targeting the professional services area of the multiple award schedule. And again, that's an open solicitation. It's always open. You can make an offer, but I highly encourage you to kind of have a business plan of what agencies that you plan to do business with and target with that scheduled contract. One of the things that we didn't talk about in this session is the amount of marketing that you will need to do. Just because you receive an award of a contract with GSA, that does not guarantee business. Okay, you are still going to have to go out and market that contract to the agencies that you want to do business with. Many of them, may or may not have familiarity with the contract that you're wanting to market. So I certainly encourage you to have a good, solid marketing plan.
And I
Um,
completely agree with you, Mr. Dehon. Just like GSA, if you get 8A certified, Hub Zone certified, you have to market that you have those certifications. Nobody's not going to know that you have those type of certifications. Therefore, it is so critical and important to update your SOQ, your qualification statement, make sure that you're even listed in the SAM that you have these types of certifications so those procurement buyers can find you. At the same time, like you mentioned, marketing is a huge factor to get in procurement contracts. And I know that's a webinar that we're going to be planning to have is marketing to the federal government. So I do completely agree with you, Mr. Dehon. One last question that we have is from Nicholas Troll Yule. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce your last name. Nicholas, he asked, who can we ask for help in getting on a GSA schedule or at a reasonable cost? Is there somebody that they can contact to help with getting on the GSA schedule?
Well, certainly we know that there are advisors out in the commercial marketplace who are available to assist organizations who are interested in doing business and pursuing a contract with GSA. Uh, I also think that those are fairly expensive propositions. Um, in terms of who can you reach out to today, whether it's the native PTAC or the New Mexico PTAC here in New Mexico, or your local PTAC Procurement Technical Assistance Center, wherever you happen to be in the United States. There's PTACs in just about every location that I know of. Excuse me. I certainly encourage you to connect with the PTACs. I'm connected with the PTAC. I work closely with New Mexico PTAC here. I offer a kind of a 1 hour getting on schedule session that's a part of their Market Ready's uh, Contract Ready series of seminars that they hold here in New Mexico. So definitely connect with your PTAC. Uh, you can also jump out on buy.gsa.gov. It's a brand new website that we are rolling out. Follow the breadcrumbs on that website for selling to the government, not buying in the government, selling to the government. And there are a lot, I kind of say countless resources that are available to help, uh, uh, you know, industry partners who are interested in doing business with GSA.
Excellent, Mr. Duhon. And again, we would like to thank you all for your participation. We did have a lot of information to present today. So as mentioned, please reach out to any one of us, Ms. Jones, Mr. Peacock, or myself, and we'll be happy to answer and or refer any questions that we have. Again, we will have this webinar available both in video format and PDF format. If you would like a copy, please reach out to us and request. Mr. Peacock, do you have any comments for our participants? Our final comments.
Just again, want to thank Mr. David Dehon and all our participants across the country for participating today. Please feel free to reach out to any of our staff consultants, and we welcome you to sign up as a client with the Four Winds Diversified project. We're willing to help you with GSA contracting or any other support that we can provide to your business. Thank you very much, and you have a great weekend.
Yes, great point, Mr. Peacock. As Mr. Peacock mentioned, our program is here to assist with SOQs, qualification statements, registering with SAM, ProNet, you name it. We're here and available to assist you in your organization. So, of course, don't be afraid to reach out to us and ask additional questions. And again, thank you all for being here today. Look forward to future webinars and have a blessed and pleasant day. Thank you, Mr. Dehon, Mr. Peacock, and all. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell.
Thank you all. I will be ending.